Welcome. My name is Stephen Katz. I'm a marriage and family therapist here in Hawaii, and you are listening to Shrink Wrap Hawaii. And I have to tell you that I am honored and thrilled to have my guest, Kumi Macdonald, the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Hawaii, as my special guest today. Welcome, Kumi.
Oh, thank you, Steve, for having me.
So I'm glad you're finally here.
Thank you.
And before we get into what you do for NAMI, a little background. Did you grow up here in Hawaii?
Yes, originally I was born in Japan, and then
I
I
never knew
moved to California as a young child. Grew up a big chunk of my childhood in the Bay Area, and then I moved here when I was in the 6th grade, and then lived here all my life since.
How did your family decide to move here?
So my parents were, although they were Japanese, living, from Japan, they were actually Christian ministers. So they moved to California, where there's a lot of transplants and immigrants, and then so we were transplanted into a Japanese American church. So it's kind of
California.
in California. So they kind of came as missionaries in the opposite direction. Usually they go into Asia, but they came out of Asia.
But then what made them go to Hawaii?
So they were again transplanted to a local church.
By the
here.
church?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you went to school, like middle school, high school here?
Yes, so I public school grad. I went to Noelani School, Stevenson, and Roosevelt.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then I went to the University of Hawaii, did some work at KCC, and then I got my associates there. Then I moved back to UH and pursued try to get into education. But life gets in the way, and I got married, and I had 2 children, and that kind of took a back seat for a little while. And
And then you went back to work eventually?
Well, yeah, so after I raised my first 2 kids, I went back into the tourism industry, where I was started off as a college student. And so I went into the hotel industry, guest services, and then business center, and just did a lot of working with tourists and that.
So what directed you into the mental health field?
Well, so for me it was after I had my 3rd child, I left the hotel industry because that was my number one passion, really, to raise my kids.
Yeah.
And so then with the 3rd child, I told my pastor at our church, I said, hey, if you pray for me that I can be a stay-at-home mom again, I'll come and work for you for free. And then sure enough, we were able to somehow figure out the finances, and my husband was, saying, okay, you can stay at home and raise a 3rd one. And so I did. I went to volunteer and just helped our pastor, and just kind of started off in the nonprofit industry in that sense.
So how does that get into the mental health thing?
So he was in charge of small groups, and small groups in a Christian church community would be somewhat similar to like a support group. There's a little element of studying, but encouraging, supporting, and helping each other out through tough times, good times. And so he was in charge of seeing the growth of that community and building connections and helping people to find wholeness and healing through a spiritual aspect, but also through the community. And so when he had moved on to another church to be pastor at another church, I ended up getting that job. So I
became, a pastor?
Not quite a pastor, but a small groups ministry director.
Oh.
And so I was in charge of these big campaigns, like we'd focus on 40 Days of Love, where we gotta love people. How do we love our family? How do we love our neighbors? How do we love community people? And study. And we put study groups centered on certain topics. And we did 40 Days of Purpose. And we had 1 month to live. So we did a whole study on if you had 1 month to live, how would you live your life out?
That's great.
Yeah. So we did a lot of things, fun things like that. But during that whole time, I was realizing that there were so many people within these, the spiritual church community can be a loving, accepting place, and yet I see a lot of hurting people. And I saw a lot of people who had depression, anxiety, bipolar struggles, and things like that, but nobody was really talking about it, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you end up talking about it in those groups?
So for me, I remember, so this is kind of how I kind of was brought into the NAMI, well, my journey was
Yeah.
back in 2013, my job was kind of on the line because we had some budget cuts and there was some restructuring, and so half of the staff was being laid off or considered laying off. And I thought, I've worked all these years in small group ministry, what am I going to do next? And I was thinking, wow, I really need to find my next dream. What is my next passion in life? Right? My kids are growing up, and so that was something that was on my heart. And then I see a lot of hurting people, and there's a lot of no talking about, you know, there's just the stigma that nobody wants to talk about these deeper issues of mental health. And in 2013, my son, he became severely depressed, and he just went through a really hard time. He was struggling in college, and I mean, he's a smart kid, but he's just going through some issues, and he just was really stuck, and it was a really heartbreaking time. So for me, watching my son struggle, and I mean, I had some, you know, situations where I've had depression, mild depression, but not that severe. You know, and then, so I kind of knew what he was struggling through, and yet I was so paralyzed, you know, and then.
Just so, you know, a lot of people don't know what that looks like. When your son was going through that, what were the symptoms? What was different in his life?
So he was a really, you know, fun-loving, silly, very intelligent, still is. But he was a very funny, outgoing young man. And then he was struggling with some, deciding what his major was. And I just noticed he wouldn't come down to dinner, or he would just not really want to come out to, when our family came over, I noticed he wasn't hanging out with his friends. He started missing classes, and it just spirals down and down and down. And then as a parent, watching that, and then not knowing where my future was with my job security, where my career was going, it really affected me as well. And I started to get depression as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a tough season for us.
What did you do?
Well, I remember one real major turning point was, I remember going into work, and I opened up my email, and one of the big teachers of small group community that writes all these books on it, it was this pastor called Rick Warren. And he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, which was a New York Times bestseller. He did the inaugural prayer for Obama. So he's kind of a well-known guy in the community. But his son had taken his life because of mental illness. And I remember sitting at the computer, and I was just weeping. And I said, here's this guy who's got it all together. He's got support, he's got the knowledge, he's got the family, he's got the community, wealth of information, and yet his family was just devastated by mental illness. And I cried out at that moment, and I said, God, if I'm given a second chance doing something, I want to make a difference for the mental health, because we're not doing enough. You know, the church works on the spiritual wholeness, and I believe that. But there's another element of really being able to talk about mental health issues, mental illness, and our struggles in that sense. And I just felt at that moment, I said, I want to make a difference. And then a few months later, I lost my job. But by then I was starting to feel like, you know what, I feel like there's something else out there for me. And then I applied for NAMI, and I got the job, and I was just so like excited that this is the direction my life was going, you know, and a new chapter in my life. Yeah.
That's kind of an amazing coincidence.
I don't know if it's coincidence. So the first week I'm at my new job at NAMI, I open the NAMI email, and the first thing I see is Rick Warren Rick Warren was the first guy to partner with NAMI and educate the faith-based communities on mental illness. And so it's been, because of that tragedy with his son, he became an advocate and a voice in that community. And I thought, wow, this is full circle for me. And I just felt like NAMI is where I belong. I want to bring awareness. I want to break the stigma. I want us to be able to talk about it and say that it's okay. And there are regular people just like me that struggle with it, normal families just like mine who struggle with it. And it's a journey.
Yeah, the stigma thing is like, it's what do they call that? Like a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because people are afraid and they have reason to fear because, in the military, in regular work life, if people think you have a history of mental illness, you might not get a job.
Yeah.
People think, oh, be careful, he's weird. And yet, if the family hides it and you hide it, you don't get any help.
Right.
Right? You won't even go in to see a therapist.
Yes.
Because first there's that piece of, which sometimes is the hardest piece, of having the insight that you have a problem.
Yes.
Because there is still, even in 2016, this feeling like only, people who are really crazy go to see a psychologist or a therapist.
Yes.
And making that leap to say, yeah, I need to see somebody, or yeah, I have a kid at home who's suffering and I need support myself.
Yes. So I remember too, as a young child, I was probably textbook OCD as a young child, excessive hand washer, germaphobe. And I remember asking my mom, I said, Mom, I think I need help. And I was very, introspective kid. And I remember my mom saying to me, and she's a good mom, good parents, but she said, if you think you're crazy, then you probably aren't. You'll outgrow it, which wasn't in essence, there was some truth to it because I did outgrow it and I'm okay, but I just felt like looking back now, I'm like, wow, that was part of the stigma that I didn't get the help I needed back then because, only the extremely mentally ill people went to seek help.
Right. And ironically, it seems like the extremely mentally ill people are the last ones to realize they need help.
Yes, yes.
Right? Everybody else around them knows they need help or thinks they do. But they think, no, the way I see the world is the right way to see the world, and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah. So I see my passion is really to bring awareness to, of course, the seriously mentally ill, but also to the typical person. 1 out of 5 adults in America will have a mental illness in a given year. That's 1 in 5, And so I want to say that it's okay to talk about it. And we get many people in your community, working professionals, presidents of organizations, the presidents, Martin Luther King Jr., President Lincoln, all of these famous people who ran the country, ran organizations who struggled with mental illness.
It's time for us to take a break, and I'll be right back with my guest, Kumi Macdonald of NAMI Hawaii. Don't touch that mouse.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidel and the Think Tech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we'd love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Welcome back to Shrink Wrap Hawaii. I'm with my guest, Kumi Macdonald, and we were just talking about NAMI Hawaii and what did they do for you? What can they do for people in general?
So I came aboard as the director of programs, and personally, having had a family member who is struggling with a mental illness, I decided to take our major program, which was family-to-family education, a 12-week comprehensive course. And so I took it, and I had wished, why didn't I have this when my son was going through it the first time?
What does that do?
Yeah, so that class, it just gives 12 weeks on a loved one, the family member who cares for somebody who's struggling with a mental illness, and talks about things like the basics of brain biology, basics on medication, how to communicate with your loved one,
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one, that's a big one. How to work through a crisis, how to talk to your doctors, how to keep a good history of the health history, you know, and then social workers come in and give us pointers on how to work the system. And we hear firsthand stories of recovery, and it is a really good comprehensive course. And it prepared me so my son did get better, but then he also had not as bad, but he has another episode.
Yeah.
And so that prepared me for the second time. And then I go back to my notes and I review things sometimes when I'm struggling. What am I supposed to do? I go back to my notes, and it's like a binder this thick, but it's a free class for family members who, you know, are taking care of somebody who has a mental illness.
And who are the people that give the class?
So the teachers are all volunteer teachers who took a very intensive training, and they themselves are family members who have had firsthand experience of taking care of somebody with a mental illness. So they teach the classes, and you do have to register. We're about midway through our first session, so the next class will start May 7th. But you can register, and it's free.
Where does that happen?
You can call me. Our local number here is 808-591-1297. You can email me at info@namihawaii.org. You can look us up, namihawaii.org. You can look us up and find out how to contact me. I respond personally to every email, every phone call.
Wow. It happens here in Honolulu?
It does, right on Kapiolani Boulevard. We have a classroom, an office right at 770 Kapiolani Boulevard. And
When does it happen?
it's usually held on a Saturday, and so it runs 12 weeks straight. And the next class will begin May 7th, but people need to register a couple of weeks in advance.
In the morning, the afternoon?
It's 9:30 to 12 noon, and it's right in our office.
And it's totally free?
It's totally free as long as you register. Then it's limited seating because it is a small class.
Yeah. Okay, so you do this educational
Yeah.
class, then what? What else is there?
There's also family support groups that meet around the island, and you know, you do a great service by helping us with that. But again, those are led by family members who have firsthand experience, and they have support groups, kind of similar to like an AA model, where people just come and share their experiences.
Right, and it's also
Yeah.
similar to the AA model because I know in all the support, I run the support group on the windward side at Castle Medical Center.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm doing one this afternoon.
Oh, yes.
Today at
Yeah.
5:30, Castle Medical Center.
Yes.
But in the beginning of the groups, we talk about confidentiality
Yes.
because there is the stigma.
Yes.
And it's hard for people, family members, just to get themselves to finally admit that they need help for themselves. And I always try to remember to keep a box of Kleenex in the group because the first time somebody comes, I think I've never not seen somebody cry the first time they tell their story because it's often the first time they've told their story to anybody, even other family members,
Yes.
cousins, aunties, uncles. There's all this shame,
There is.
and they don't want anybody to know. Sometimes a mom or a dad shows up and they say to me, oh, my husband doesn't know that I'm here. And I, you know, it's really sad, but it's good that they're coming.
Yeah.
Because in the support groups, it's all peers.
Yes.
But people can help each other from their own experience.
Exactly, and there's no judgment, and there's no you should do this or you should do that.
Right.
It's just a really embracing environment.
Yeah, it's more, you know, people tell their own story. Well, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
And they could share information about, oh, well, this is a really good doctor I found. And, you know, yeah, I know, like the first couple of times you apply for Social Security, it gets denied automatically, and you should keep plugging if that's what you need.
Yeah.
It's very practical things.
I hear it all the time. I've even experienced it where people go, oh, he'll just snap out of it, you know, or you hear things like, oh, he'll be all right, or, you know, or you just have to think positive thoughts, you know?
Right, and then there's
they
all
mean
this
well.
blame that happens. People think it's their fault somehow.
And it's really, mental illness is an illness. No one accuses you of being a poor parent because your child is susceptible to heart disease or certain genetic illnesses or whatever it may be. We don't condemn the parent, and we shouldn't have to condemn the parent for a mental illness. It's just a chemical imbalance. There's other factors involved.
Right.
But we need to treat it just like it is any illness.
Right.
So if I had, for instance, high blood pressure, would I be stigmatized and not hired for a certain job, right?
And I mean, even nationally, it's only in recent years that we're starting to treat it like a regular illness. I mean, they just changed the law a couple of years ago so that there's no limit on the amount of sessions that you can have.
Exactly.
It used to be there was a cap. Mental illness was its own category. Now there's what they call parity with all other illnesses.
And NAMI, our national organization, so NAMI Hawaii is part of the national organization, and they are one of the major players in that, changing the laws, the parity laws.
And here too, I know that I'm part of the NAMI board, and I'm on the committee that tries to change the laws here to help people who are mentally ill get help.
And you've done a lot. You've done a lot. So I appreciate
Well,
that.
it all, you know, it's when it hits you in a personal way.
Yeah.
There's just no way to understand it. And I'm in the field, the mental health field myself, but when it hits home, it's a whole new ball game. And it doesn't matter what you've gone to school for. When it's in your own family, you need the help of others who have been through the same thing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I really believe that NAMI is here for people who are wanting to get educated, get support. We're here for anybody, even if you're the person who's struggling. You know, we're here to answer your phone calls, and we're here to give you referrals and connect you to other resources.
Yeah, sometimes I get help from people who are themselves suffering with a mental illness and refer them to United Self-Help, which most people don't even know about.
And so Mental Health America, United Self-Help, there's some other great nonprofits that we partner with, because we can't do it alone, you know? We need to help each other as well. Yeah, so we have other programs as well, like one of our key programs is NAMI on Campus.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about your daughter. Tell us about
So my
your
daughter, who's at the University of Hawaii, Manoa, she's the president of NAMI on Campus, and it was started by a different gal though, Sierra. She's a wonderful gal. She started it up there, and one of our board members, Krisha, and but my daughter's serving as the current president.
Wow.
We started a second chapter at Kapiolani Community College.
That's going on now?
Right now. And then the third one, we just started the paperwork for University of Hawaii, West Oahu.
Oh, that's great.
And we're also in touch with BYU Hawaii on the North Shore. We're in touch with some people there that hopefully that will get rolling as well. And they bring awareness and just saying that it's okay to talk about it, because that's when a lot of these mental illness manifests, right? Early teens or young
Uh-huh.
adulthood
Yeah.
oftentimes. And so it's okay to talk about it. And if we get it early, the recovery process, there's just so much more hope in getting quicker and better recovery.
Yeah. Also, I mean, getting help here for your loved one with a mental illness is very difficult. Partly because we don't have the facilities.
Yes.
There's one state hospital in the state, and in order to get in, the last time I looked, you have to break a law first
Yes.
to get in.
Yes.
You can't just say, I need help. And so a lot of times our loved ones are at home, and the parents, brothers and sisters, they don't know how to handle it or where to go. And then very often the person with a mental illness will break the law for trespassing or a petty crime and end up at OCCC, which has more people with a mental illness now than the state hospital or any
Yes.
other institution. And that's true across the country.
Yes.
And they're really not equipped to deal with it. NAMI National is working on that, I hope.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah. What can people do locally?
You know, I really do believe that we do need to change the laws. I do believe we need to educate people, we need to support people, but I really believe it comes down to getting the word out. If I think just within the last 2 years I've been here, and then I've just seen a big difference in people who call in and they said, I want to help. I want to do this. I want to do NAMI on campus. I want to get the, you know, and it's a little bit easier to talk about, or it's a little bit easier to say that, yeah, I struggle with anxiety, but I'm a student, I'm successful, I'm doing fine. And I think it's not as shameful as it used to be.
It's getting
And
better.
I feel that this is, you know, I really believe this, and NAMI National also believes this, is that if we can bring awareness, if we can get the word out, that it's okay. Like, do you remember when we couldn't talk about AIDS, or we couldn't even talk about cancer?
Right.
You know,
Right. The C word.
you know,
Right.
right? And we couldn't. And AIDS has, you know, they broke the stigma about
Yeah,
AIDS, and
yeah.
you know, we can talk about it now.
So what are the things that NAMI does to support itself, to raise money?
So one of the things that we do is our annual NAMI Walk, which is our charity walk. It's going to be held on October 8th, 2016, and we're gearing up for that. And it's a fun day event, a charity walk. It's 3 miles, but it's like 1.5 miles twice. So some people who don't want to walk 3 miles can just quit at halfway. But it's a fun walk. There's entertainment, there's music, there's fun things for the kids and family. You can bring your pets. But really what it is the more people who say, I'm going to walk for my family, or I'm going to walk to break the stigma, that's making a difference. Because the more we break the stigma, more we bring awareness through that NAMI Walk event, then people are going to start saying, hey, I think we need to put more money in mental illness. I think we need to do more for that.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversation begins.
Yeah. And so if somebody wanted to join that walk, what would they do?
You can register for the walk at namiwalks.org/Hawaii, or you can just go to namiwalks.org. It's with an S, namiwalks.org. And you can search for Hawaii, and you can register already. The website is up and ready.
Oh, wow.
We're just gearing up for it. We're in the planning stages. And this year we have 2 beauty pageant queens locally that have reached out to us.
That's great.
One has a family background. Her parents, family member have mental illness. One gal herself is in the journey of recovery.
Wow.
And so they're going to help us with the walk, and we're going to have some wonderful music and entertainment. We're going to have a good time.
What's the date again?
Saturday, October 8th.
But if somebody wanted to register now or even give money now, they could do that?
They can go online, namiwalks.org/Hawaii.
Okay, and it's time for us to take another break. I'll be right back with my guest, Kumi Macdonald of NAMI Hawaii. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on Think Tech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
Welcome back. This is Steve Katz with my friend and executive at NAMI Hawaii, Kumi Macdonald. So you were just telling me the change that you've seen.
Yes.
Tell me again.
So when I first came aboard, we were a struggling small nonprofit. And here I was, someone who educates themselves, reads up on things on the internet, and I've never ever heard of NAMI before I applied for this job. And yet, within the past 2 years, we were a struggling small, just kind of did support groups and things. We are vibrant, we're growing, and my biggest problem is I have to kind of turn people away because I can't do every project that wants to get done because of the limited time and energy resources. And so that's a good problem to have.
That's great.
It is
That's
a great, yeah.
And you were saying before that you just noticed more NAMI stuff around.
Yeah, so like, here I was, this person, you know, I'm always looking up things on the internet.
Yeah.
I watch TV and never once did I hear of NAMI. But then just in the last year or so, I've seen national commercials during, you know, primetime hours. And I hear people like Demi Lovato, the famous singer, and, you know, some other people who partner with NAMI, and it's just being more visible. There's kind of a energy that's around mental health, and we're being a little bit more vocal about it.
I see we have a tweet, can't even say it. What does it say? Where is it? Oh, can concerned social awareness enhance or create mental illness? What if Kumi's mom had agreed that she could have been crazy? So the question is, can awareness create the mental illness itself?
I don't think so, do you? You're the professional, but I don't think so. I think...
No, it's like, you know, can talking about chicken pox cause chicken
Yes.
pox?
We have to treat mental illness as an illness.
Right.
Really, that's all it is. And we can't label people as crazy because I'll tell you the honest truth. Being in this community, the mentally ill people are more responsible, more compassionate, they're honor their word, more gracious than the general public, who are
it reminds
quote
me of
unquote.
the whole recovery model of like
Yes.
12-step groups.
And I noticed that, you know, people who are quote unquote non-mental ill people sometimes are the quote crazier people. You know, and it doesn't mean that they lack character, or they are not professionals, or they can't do a job. It just means they have an illness, and that needs to be treated.
Yeah, there's something about the illness being a mental illness. I think that it's just too terrifying for people. You know, a lot of times people mistreat other people who scare them because they're too different, they think, than they are. And there's this fear of being out of control. I mean, it's like the worst thing that can happen to people, I think, if they fear losing their minds, quote unquote. You know, it's just too terrifying. So they put it into this whole category.
I
It's
think
not
because,
them.
see, again, I believe that it's because television shows and movies promote, stigmatize mental illness as this extreme case scenario. The violent person, the horror stories. But in reality, mentally ill people are the least violent community. You know, sorry, but the white professional male is the most violent, non-mentally ill male is the most violent in the community. But somehow we place it on the mentally ill that are violent and that we need to be afraid of.
Right, so it's much more often that these mass killers or something, they don't have a mental illness.
Yeah. Well, many,
At
some
least
of
they're
them
not
do.
diagnosed, most of them.
No, but
Yeah.
we do see cases where there are extreme
Sure.
cases.
And many times
Yes.
people who are not getting help
Yes, exactly.
because of the stigma,
Mhm.
right?
But the general population of those with mental illness they don't hurt people.
Yeah.
They might hurt themselves, or they might be a little different,
Yeah.
or they might just be regular people like you and me that, struggle and you wouldn't know it.
So if there were, 3 things that you wanted people to take away from your being here today, what might they be?
Well, I really hope that more people would realize the importance of awareness,
Uh-huh.
and I really hope that people would come and just show your face at the charity walk. Just come. It's a free event. And
The date again?
October 8th, Saturday, October 8th,
Okay.
9 o'clock is when we start the walk.
Uh-huh.
But
Where?
it's going to be at Honolulu Hale, where they set up the giant Christmas tree
Uh-huh.
and the big
City
grassy
Hall.
lot. Yeah, the grassy area right there on a Saturday morning. And I really believe that if we can talk about it, I think that's the biggest thing, is that we got to talk about it. It's okay to say, hey, I struggle, and other people struggle at different times in their lives.
I see we have another tweet. Wait.
That
No
was-
tweet.
Yep.
Why were you telling me there was a tweet? He made a mistake? Okay, never mind. No tweet.
Well, I want to answer the second part of that question.
Oh,
Is what
okay.
if Kumi's mom had agreed that she could have been quote unquote crazy? I wouldn't say, I don't want to say that word, but I
Yeah.
had struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder as
Right.
a child.
Yeah.
And I think my healing process would have taken a different route.
Mm.
Perhaps I really do believe that everyone has a journey, and you find healing when it's when you're ready and when it's right for you.
Uh-huh.
So I don't regret
Uh-huh.
my life,
Right.
because I really believe certain things happen for a reason. But if my mom did get help, I might have had a better outcome earlier. Maybe I could have.
Well, also, at least you would have felt more listened to, which is a key
Yeah.
to it. Like if one of your kids came to you with the same problem today, how would you handle it?
I'm more the proactive mom, so I'm
Uh-huh.
always encouraging, let's figure this out together,
Uh-huh.
and let's work on things. I'm more of the proactive one, because I'm such an introspective person.
Mm.
I just want, to do the best for my kids. Sometimes they go, Mom, stop bothering me, I'm fine.
Well, yeah, and like your mom, I mean, your mom was obviously doing the best she could.
She did, yes.
But it was probably a little scary for her
Yes.
to say, she might be off.
Well, I don't think people knew what that was back then,
Right. Right.
I was just an excessive hand washer. I was a germaphobe, and it did affect my relationships with my family and my friends a little bit.
Yeah.
But they kind of just sort of accepted me. Oh yeah, Kumi has this thing,
Uh-huh.
and I
Was your mother right though? I think you said your
I
mother was right. You
did.
just outgrew it.
I did outgrow it in my teens.
So now you do something else that's weird.
I tell people I'm OC but not D. I'm a little obsessive compulsive, a little bit.
But it's not a disorder.
But it's not a disorder anymore. I can.
You do your life okay.
I do.
Yeah. Is the office very neat now?
Well, I'm also a recovering perfectionist, so I've learned to kind of let things go too.
I can use a little more in that direction. I'm told by everybody around me I could be a little bit more neat.
Yeah, so it's a journey.
Yeah. The subject is really difficult to bring up. I mean, it's not your typical cocktail party conversation. How can people do that? Like you were saying before, we need to spread awareness, and of course I agree with that. That's why I'm with NAMI myself, because it helps me and to help others. What can we do?
So for me, I mean, this is just for me personally.
Yeah.
I can't speak for every person,
Yeah.
every family, but for me, I realize that just sharing about it, like I don't really like to bring attention to myself, but
Yeah.
coming on a show like this or
Yeah.
maybe a radio show, or sometimes people ask me to share my story, and I have to do that because that's just part of the healing as a nation, healing as a world that we need
You
to
know,
talk
you make
about
me
it.
think that I should put it out there. If there is somebody that is in recovery themselves, would like to come on the show, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And
They
so
can contact Think Tech Hawaii. We'll have them on. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get called in we have another program called Speakers Bureau. And you have been very gracious and you have done some of those for us where we've gone to businesses will invite us, or sometimes we've had a cancer support group that invited us to come and share. We've had church communities, and we've done the whole service.
Yeah.
You know,
And you and I, you know, we went to speak to the Hawaii Psychiatry Association.
That's right.
And
we did
it was
Castle.
surprising to me, and Castle, yeah. But even among health professionals, there have been many engagements that I went to speak at where a lot of the professionals did not yet know about NAMI.
Yes.
And that always floors me.
Yes.
But the honest truth is, before it hit me personally, I didn't know about NAMI, and it's easy to forget that.
Yes. So that is always a project. There's always a email, a phone call. Will you come to our school? Will you come to our group? Will you come and share? So that's a busy, busy program. And one thing that I really appreciate is that there is no lack of new projects that are available. And that's my biggest problem, is I have to decide where to focus our time
Can
and
you use
energies.
volunteers at the office?
Not necessarily at the office, because we already have a pretty good staff for the
that's great.
office, but we do need a lot of help for the charity walk, manpower, people who may be professionals in the community or sponsors. Perhaps you're a small business and you'd like to be one of our sponsors. You get your name out.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, we get out on the news. We have public service announcements, and your name will get out that you're helping to bring awareness to.
What's your email again, so if somebody wants to contact you?
Info@namihawaii.org.
Okay.
Info@namihawaii.org.
Right, so we can always use more sponsors for the walk and more volunteers for the walk to help set it up.
Yes,
Last year's
absolutely.
was much bigger than I remember it.
Yeah, so Dana Hamilton was our walk manager, and so when I first came at 2014, we didn't take an accurate count, but we want to say there was about 300 people max.
Yeah.
But this past one, we actually took the clickety numbers, and we had over 600 people,
Wow.
50 people,
Wow.
which
So
was
like doubled the
doubled, at
size.
least doubled.
Wow.
And hopefully this year we can double again.
That would be great.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, because as you say, 1 in 5 people are
Yes.
affected,
Yes.
and that means almost all families are
Yes.
affected.
So again, we also want to let people know that we will come and talk. If you want to invite us and share at your community, your social club, your business office, we can
Oh yeah,
come.
they'll call me. I'm sort of
Yeah.
like, very promiscuous that way. I'll go out and talk to anybody.
Yeah, as long as you represent NAMI Hawaii, right?
Right,
And
right.
Yes,
right.
You're wonderful.
I
Always
love to
that.
do it, and you do it.
Yes.
We have other people that will do
That's
it.
right. And another one that, can I also put a plug in for our mental health conference coming up? We're in the planning stages of that, but May 21st, we are still in the planning stages, but if you contact us, we can put you on our email list. But we're having our mental health Breaking the Stigma conference that's coming up, and that will be the 2nd annual NAMI conference. Last year we focused on compassionate response, focused a little bit on the homeless issues and how families can have compassionate responses to people in the community and your family. This year we want to focus more on how can we break the stigma.
Breaking the stigma.
Yes.
And that's a good way. We need to wrap it up. Thank you, Kumi Macdonald.
Thank you, Steve, for having me.
And thank you again for joining me here at Shrink Wrap Hawaii. See you next time. Bye.